Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
2025. What are some things that you want to be different? Changes in your heart, changes in your habits, and how do you get there? I'm Sam Kelly. Help is coming. It is as if you had your own personal counselor who could sit down with you and help you untangle some of the knots from the stuck behaviors and life situations that you've had. We get a chance to sit down with Dr. Greg Jantz from the Center, A Place of Hope, and talk about some of the harder subjects. Like, how do you take care of yourself when you're so busy taking care of other people? When do you know that it's anxiety, or when is it just regular worrying? What do you do if someone's broken your heart? How do you deal with rejection? Are you burnt out? What do you do with burnout? How do you stop it before it becomes burnout? How do you stay grateful in a world that is just kind of angry? So looking forward to these conversations coming up in the new year. It is life to our hearts. It's called Light in the Darkness. Big thanks to our friends at Fisher Plumbing and Asset Roofing for making this possible. Light in the Darkness. We are stepping into the new year with a fresh perspective, and a big part of that is asking God to shine a light on some of the harder things. Maybe these are things that we can move forward in with freedom and hope in the new year. I'm Sam Kelly. This is Light in the Darkness. It's from John 1:5, where it says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." And this is a 5-part podcast series with Dr. Gregory Jantz from the Center, A Place of Hope. Dr. Jantz, we have been friends for a long time.
We have. We were just talking about there is some history.
Yeah, I remember you went camping with my husband and our son and your boys a number of times.
Oh, my goodness. We had these adventures we would do.
You did.
In crazy remote areas.
Yes.
Yes.
And you all survived. And my prayer life really grew in those times because I was just praying, please, let them all come back.
Yeah, yes.
But I think about you and your wife, LaFawn, and how you guys are ones, and especially with the Center, A Place of Hope, when anything strange or hard happens in our country, you are one of the first ones that gets called when there are media organizations that are trying to talk to people about the mental health of our country.
Yes, sometimes I get those difficult calls. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so to me, I'm just thrilled. I'm honored that you would do this podcast with us and share these things. I feel really grateful to have you here as a resource for some of these harder topics.
And you're leading me up to a hard topic today.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't tell you. So what we did, just so you know, as you're tuning in, is we asked listeners, and these are texts and they're also online. We said, what are you concerned about? What's on your mind? What do you want to change in the new year? And these are some of the answers that we got. And so as we do each podcast, we'll dig deep into one of the ones that someone brought up, and a few people said, yeah, me too. So our first one that we want to talk about is, how do you stay graceful and kind in a world that is so angry?
Graceful and kind in a world that is so angry. And Sam, maybe we all are feeling that to some degree. And it's like, okay, kindness. How do I, somebody that may have said some things that were not kind to me, or I met with a family member that's really difficult to deal with and they're not kind. And here I am. I want to reflect God's love, and how do I do that? Right?
Yeah.
Is that where we are?
Yeah.
And sometimes, even I think of social media, I think of what's going on in the culture, and there is a lack of kindness. Now, kindness doesn't mean just being nice. Kindness for me as a Christian comes from it's in my spirit. I want to carry a spirit of kindness. That doesn't mean I have to like you. Okay, or agree with you, but in my spirit, I want to be kind, because the greatest thing I can do is build a bridge with another person, and I don't do that through being mean, rude, name-calling. And so I want to just begin to see myself as, first of all, a grateful person, and maybe I do need to go and start creating a gratefulness journal, but gratitude is the springboard to my worldview. My worldview is either of God's optimism, not man's optimism, but God's optimism, or my worldview I've absorbed from the world and it's pretty negative.
Yeah.
And so what is this coming out of? My spirit of kindness, and I can only do this. Oh boy, I can only do this with God empowering me. You know, we get tested on our patience with people, and we really do find ourselves at times at odds with some very difficult. I see it every day, and I see people being wounded and traumatized by just the opposite of kindness. So think of kindness as it's a part of it's love that comes from only through my spirit, only because Christ is enabling me to do that. But if I'm kind, it doesn't mean I agree with the person. It doesn't mean I have to be a friend with them. But it's coming out of that worldview of God optimism.
Can you give some practical steps?
Yes.
Just because I know with our family gatherings or even just at work, in fact, Merriam-Webster said that the defining word for 2024 was polarization.
Oh my.
And so here that's the defining word, and we're living it, like you said, every single day. So let's say there's a person, I don't agree, they don't agree with me, but we're face to face. What does kindness look like practically?
I'm going to thank them for sharing. To the best of my ability, I'm going to tell them, Sam, thank you for sharing your opinion on this. Thank you for sharing. I really value that. So build the bridge. Thank you for sharing. Now, you may not have liked a thing they said. That doesn't matter. But we are grateful that they have shared. And so when we think of building a bridge, always start with a point of thankfulness. And there's also topics and situations that you know are so polarizing that are not going to have a healthy outcome. And so you're going to make a decision. How deep do I go into this topic with them? They may not be the right person. A person that has opposite views and they just want to have conflict with you. They want to have an argument and they want to whip you up with their argument. Well, I'm probably not going to engage in that. It's kind of like, thank you for sharing. But I'm just not going to, sometimes we take the bait and we go, oh no, now I'm being beaten up. So be aware, emotional abuse, name calling, put downs. If you're going into a situation like that, that's not where you debate a person. It's not going to be a debate. It's going to be an attack.
As you were talking, the word that came into my mind was triggered. Is that something?
Yes.
And then what are the actual chemical things that happen in our bodies when we get triggered?
Triggered is really a word right now. I'm triggered and I'm traumatized.
Right.
And yes, there's layers of trauma these days. Boy, we've had a few years of things that we could say are pretty traumatic. Absolutely. And we look at the world, if we look at through the lens of the world, it can be pretty traumatic. So one of the things that I'm going to say is as you're triggered, now a trigger can be a word, person uses a word. And did you notice so many words their meaning have changed these days? The language has changed. The meaning of words have changed a bit. And so sometimes people are just triggered by an innocent word and you didn't mean anything. So here's what we want to be aware of. Am I reading into another person's motivation? Am I saying, well, they said that because they wanted to hurt me? So am I assigning a motivation? And I'm just going to say, be cautious of that. Sometimes we're so fast to make a critical judgment that we're wrong. And so be careful about fast critical judgments. And sometimes I need to ask a follow-up clarifying question.
What would one be?
Well, it could be as simple, a counselor might say, well, tell me, well, what do you mean by that? Really, sincerely seek a clarifying question. A person says, something that just seems way out there. Well, instead of getting into an instant debate and making a big judgment about it, go, hey, can you help me understand that? Can you Tell me what did you mean by that? So it also serves to gather more information and maybe to get more of what is the heart of what they're talking about. A lot of times people are angry because they're hurt, and they've been hurt, and they're expressing it, and it's coming out through anger.
It almost seems like what you're doing is looking for common ground. Maybe I can't agree with the big picture, but I'm, by asking questions, trying to find something that I could say, wow, that really hurt you, or wow, that must have been difficult.
And this just happened to me yesterday. A person was sharing all kinds of frustrations, and there were things that I absolutely could not do anything about or with. I'm listening, but I said, it sounds like you've been really hurt. Instantly, the anger went to tears.
Wow.
So it just went right to tears because that's what was coming out. It was a lot of hurt. And sometimes hurt comes out through blame. So if you're sitting down and a person, they're really hurt, they're angry, it sounds like a lot of blame, and you don't like being with them because it's always so blaming. They've probably been really hurt. So don't over-personalize a lot of this with others. Just be careful. You don't have to take it on. Don't have to personalize it. It's probably not about you. You might have said something that was a trigger to them, and you're going to be kind and you're going to seek clarification, but be careful you don't take it on as, oh, I really blew it. You probably didn't.
Do you have any advice for that feeling that you get when you're talking with someone and there's not agreement and you feel your own self rise up, like there's a little heat in there, and it's almost like it takes so much control to be kind? And I guess I'm just wondering, is there some self-care or some things that you can do to grab a hold of your own emotions and keep them from making you part of the problem?
Sam, really, truly, I have to work on that because there are times where somebody will say something, it is so wrong. I just want to jump in and I want to say something back quickly. So here's what I have to do. I just have to pause, and maybe when you go 1001, 1002, 1000, you're pausing for a minute so that you don't say something you're going to later regret.
Right.
And so I've had to build in an internal pause. I don't mean a long one where people are looking at you, what's wrong, but just a little pause. It's 2 or 3 seconds, and I'm going, okay, because if I'm impulsive in my words, I'm probably going to say things that are not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, what do we do as far as the saturation that we have in our culture with news and social media? And a lot of the things, I don't know if it's just me, but I've just noticed there's kind of an inflammation in everything that I'm reading and seeing. Do you recommend to your clients at the Center of Place of Hope maybe even a fast from some of the toxic news or stories, things that can inflame you?
Yes. Inflaming, that is such a good way of putting it, because we have become at times saturated by the negative, and I have been guilty of this, and you're kind of doom scrolling and you just get on this roll and you keep going and going. So a part of this can be like an addiction because I can never get enough. And you go, well, how long were you on social media last night? Oh, maybe 20 minutes, but it was really 2 hours or 3 hours. We always underestimate the time.
Right.
Because it is addictive. It is. And social media is designed to keep us engaged and keep us going. So there is a time where I think detox is appropriate. And what does that look like? Okay, I have to work on this, and we as a family, now I have one married son and one son who's at college, so he's not here every day. But what LaFawn and I have done, because she has reminded me, maybe it's an evening, and she'll say, "You sure been on your phone a lot?"
Yeah.
You're going to have to. You know what? You're right. So what we've decided, like when we're with each other, put it down and really be with each other and have eye contact. We do not do our devices or our phones like at mealtime. And we've been doing things, and like it can be a long, like most of Sunday, pretty disengaged from our devices. It might be late afternoon, evening. We're just trying not to be distracted.
I love how purposeful you are with it.
And we've really, well, I needed to do that. I needed to do it, and it's probably more for me. So I feel like I'm more present, and I'm really being more intentional. Like, okay, when you're with that person, really be with them. And I don't want to do anything that's going to take the value away. We've all been at, maybe you've, had lunch or you're at a coffee with somebody, and they're on their device like 90% of the time. And maybe they're texting, and you're trying to have a conversation, but it just feels devalued. So give your full attention to that person. You're going to feel better, and they're going to feel valued.
So good. Now, the Center, a Place of Hope, is a place where if as you're listening, you think, it's me or someone else, I know we've got some issues with this stuff and I need a little extra help. And I love your website that you can actually, aplaceofhope.com, go on there and get help. Our family has done that. And so encouraging you to do that as you're listening. We're really excited to have Dr. Greg Jantz with us from the Center, a Place of Hope. We're going to continue this 5-part series. Our next episode is maybe important for you if you are caring for someone. Maybe you're a mom or you're someone who has someone with health issues and you're taking care of them. How do you take care of yourself in the middle of all the caring that you have to do? That's going to be our next episode. So grateful. Cannot wait to hear it. Make sure that if you want to go back and review the podcast series, you can do that. Share it with a friend. Purposely.com. We are super grateful for Fisher Plumbing and Asset Roofing for helping us get this content to you. Thanks so much, guys. And we will have even more purposeful podcast content coming your way to grow your faith in Jesus. Thank you for being here.